Hi everyone, I am Charity and welcome to Chess Evolution. In today's video, I'm going to show you 4 important puzzles that will help improve your rating in chess. So without wasting too much time, let's dive right in. So this first position is currently equal in material, however it's white turn, and here white can simply take the pawn on g6. Let's say it takes the pawn on g6 with its king, and then seeing this, black decides to take the pawn on g3 using its rook, and then white rook simply takes black rook, and black king simply recaptures. Now this might look like a draw, but that is actually a winning move here. And for those who would like to try to find it out first, pause the video now. The winning move is king to g5. Any other move is either drawing or losing for white. So let's say instead of going king to g5, white decides to go f6. Now it gives the opportunity for black to simply go on either h4 or f4 and take either of the pawns, or it can go up also. Let's say it can go g4. I'm gonna go and take the pawn on f4. Let's say seeing this, white decides to go back on g6, and then black goes back on g4. And then now white don't have many options. So let's just say this I should go f6, and then black takes the pawn on h4, and here white takes the pawn on f5, and you can see black is up material, and you can simply go now g3. Even if white tries to get closer to the pawn and go g5, black can simply go down with the pawn and is eventually going to promote that pawn. Now let's say white decides to play any other move instead of g5 and takes the pawn on f5. Here black can simply take the pawn on h4, and let's just say white decides to go g6. Then black simply goes g3, and now white goes up with the pawn, black goes down with the pawn, and eventually they're going to promote at the same time, and it's going to be a draw. Therefore, the only good move here that doesn't end up in losing or drawing the game is king to g5. And what's going to happen here is that there's not much black can do. Black can simply, let's just say black decides to go f3. Then here, white can simply take the pawn on f5. And then if black goes back now and go g3, I can still go back to g5. And now there's still not much black can do. Let's say black still tries to go closer to that pawn so it doesn't promote in case black pawn is captured. And it goes f3. Now white doesn't even need to take, but if he wants he can, but he can just go up with the pawn also, and it's immediately winning for white and losing for black. Not much black can do. I'm simply gonna promote. Now in the second position, both sides are equal in material, however there's a winning move here for white. If you'd like to try to find it out first, pause the video now. The right move is pawn to b6. Any other move is simply losing for white. Let's just say instead of going pawn to b6, white goes pawn to a6. Here black simply takes the pawn, white retakes, and black is winning because its king is closer to the pawns. Same thing would happen if white goes c6, black takes the pawn, white retakes, black still winning. Instead of retaking, let's just say white tries to go up, trying to save some pawns. Black takes, white takes, black takes, still black is winning. If it doesn't take, go up, black still winning because his king is closer to the pawns, like I said. Therefore, let's just say white still doesn't see b6, but also doesn't go and move any of the pawns, decide to move the king instead, goes king to f2, trying to get closer to its pawns. Here, black simply has to play king to f4, white goes king to e2, black goes king to e4, white goes king to d2, and here black can either go king to d4 or d5. I would go d5. Then white goes up, try to go c3, and black simply takes the pawn. If he tries to get closer still, black's gonna continue taking the pawns. If he tries to go up with the pawn now, trying to save the pawn, black simply takes, white has to take back, then black retakes, doesn't even need to take with the pawn, can take with the king, and black is still winning. Now let's say in this position, white realizes that he's not gonna get closer to the king and play a move like b6 now. Now it's too late because black is gonna simply take with the pawn on the a file, and now if white decides to go up with the pawn, black doesn't necessarily need to take with the pawn on the b file. You can simply take with the king, and it's still winning because now white can go and up with the pawn. It's gonna get its pawn taken. White has to capture. Let us say captures. Still gonna get its pawn taken. So it's losing for white still. The only way to win this is pawn to b6 immediately. Goes pawn to b6, and now here it doesn't really matter which pawn black takes with, because if he takes with the pawn on the a file, you simply go up with your pawn on the c6, on the c5, go to c6. Black has to take, because if he doesn't take, let's just say you just take this pawn instead, you simply take the pawn up there and you're promoting. So black has to take, and instead of taking the other pawn, you simply go up with your pawn on its way to promotion. Let's say it takes with the pawn on the c file instead. Same thing. However, now you're gonna go up with your pawn on the a file. You're gonna go a6. Black has to take, and you're still promoting. Now in this third position, even though white is down a pawn, white is still winning if he plays the only winning move here. If you would like to try finding it out for yourself, pause the video now. The winning move here is white rook takes black rook on d4, and black simply recaptures with the pawn. And now white must go g5. If white plays any other thing, let's just say it goes and take the pawn on f7 with the rook. Here now, black can simply take the pawn on c4. If we check, white king has to move, and then black takes the other pawn on g4, and black is winning. Therefore, it's very important that white must take the rook on d4, black will recapture, and then white must go g5. Here, black can take the pawn. It's going to take the pawn on g5, and then white is simply promoting. Or it decides not to take and decides to try to get closer with its king and go d7, white can simply take the pawn on h6, and it's still promoting because the king cannot stop the pawn in time. Now let's say black sees this and see the king cannot stop the pawn in time, and he takes, trying to promote his own pawn. He'll still just go up, and then black's gonna go down, white goes up, and white is gonna get there faster and with check. Therefore, white here is simply winning. Now in this fourth position, it is winning for black, but only if black finds the winning move. If you would like to try finding the winning move first, pause the video now. The winning move here is rook to d1. It's a check, and white king has to move and go to g2. And now black must go g3 with its king, because now if, let's just say, white decides to go f3 with its king, trying to protect the rook and attack the pawn, black simply goes f1, and it's a check. And now white has to move. Let's just say he goes g2, black simply goes and captured white's rook. Something else that could happen is, let's just say king going to d3 is trying to take white's rook, so white decides to move its rook. It goes, let's just say, b2. Here black can simply go with his rook to d2. It gives a check, and now white must take the rook with its rook, and now we capture with the pawn, and it's simply winning for black. We can also recapture with the king, and then still winning for black because it just go up and promotes. And that was it. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Also, share the video with anyone that you think might like this video. Bye!